Good day, ladles and jelly spoons, and welcome to the first ever episode of Cottle's Top 10 of everything. Today, I'll be counting down the top 10 albums of the Noughties. I know what you're thinking. James, you know nothing of music, and the Noughties was such a poor decade. To those people, I have a simple message. Silence, you cretin! While the Noughties may have spawned a few bad apples, overall it was a decade filled with love, redemption, and intrigue. iPods and Spotify changed the way we listen to our music. Popular websites such as MySpace gave artists new means of distribution. And reality TV's impact reached new heights in the music industry. But all that is large and irrelevant. I mean, largely irrelevant. The following albums are the ones that I would reach for if my tiny room caught fire. Before we begin though, let me explain the process I used to select these albums. I scanned through my entire iTunes library and selected 30 albums that stood out as favourites. I then removed 10 which I felt were weakest, leaving me with 20. After that, I removed 5, bringing me down to 15. Here are the 5 honorary mentions that didn't quite make it into the top 10. All of these albums are still awesome, so you should definitely check them out. But, for reasons that I can't be bothered to describe, they lost out to the following 10. So, on to the main event, the moment we've all been waiting for. My top 10 albums of the noughties. Enjoy! Number 10. Kasabian with West Rider Pop Lunatic Asylum. This album wins the award for the most ridiculous title. I've been practicing saying it very quickly. Rider Pop Lunatic Asylum, West 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 Rider Pop Lunatic Asylum. When I first heard Fire and Vlad the Impaler on the marvelous internet, I was hooked. Vlad the Impaler has been my ringtone to this very day. But upon further listening, I discovered something incredible. Every track on the album is awesome. Not just the big well-known tunes, but all the other album tracks too. Kasabian's come close to achieving this before, but West Rider Pop Lunatic Asylum is by far the most consistent. Number 9. The Raconteurs, live at Bristol Colston Hall. A very, very small number of you will have actually heard this album, so feel free to accuse me of cheating. But how cool is this? You go to a gig for one of your favourite bands. They record the gig and have it available on a 2 CD exclusive set just 10 minutes after the show. So this gig wins the award for the most personal album. Number 8. Arcade Fire with The Suburbs. The Suburbs is the most recent album on this list. I know what you're thinking. James, 2010 isn't in the noughties. You can't have albums from last year. Well, I am making this video and you are not. And answer me this, if 2010 isn't in the noughties, then what decade is it in? The tenties? I don't think so. Anyway, as much as I love Funeral and Neon Bible, this album has made a much greater impact on me in the last few months. Therefore, I give The Suburbs the award for favourite album at the moment. Number 7. Interpol with Our Love to Admire. It would be wrong to award the most disturbing artwork to any other album on this list, so well done, Interpol. Interpol were very much under my radar for the better part of a decade. But then, one bored day in a Virgin Megastore forced me to listen to the album in its entirety. My first reaction was, I didn't know the Editors had a new album. But, on a whim, I bought the album, grew to love it, and have been a rabid Interpol fan ever since. While Turn on the Bright Lights would have been a more obvious candidate for this list, there's still a place in my heart for Our Love to Admire for setting off that initial spark, even if the fate of the animals on the front cover is still relatively up in the air. Number 6. Them Crooked Vultures with Them Crooked Vultures. I love Nirvana. I love Foo Fighters. I love Queens of the Stone Age. I love Led Zeppelin. And I love everything in between. So when you put it all together, you get something magical. Many brand it as just another Queens of the Stone Age album. But I ask you, how is that in any way a bad thing, particularly when the drums and the bass are literally turned up to 11? With new Foo Fighters and Queens of the Stone Age albums on the horizon, this album wins the Desperately Needs a Second Album award. Number 5. Queens of the Stone Age with Songs for the Deaf. If I was 100% true to myself, this entire countdown would be populated with Jack White albums. I would struggle to pick a favourite. I've broken my own rule though, as Josh Homme and Dave Grohl make a second appearance on this list with another powerhouse album. It was hard to choose a favourite Queens of the Stone Age album, but this one edges above the others by mere centimetres. Still, I love those little radio interludes they do in between. So this album gets the Self-Betrayal Award. Number 4, number 4, number 4, number 4, number 4. Gorillaz with Plastic Beach. There are a lot of great things I could say about Plastic Beach. There are some huge collaborations on there. It'd be hard to get Lou Reed, Snoop Dogg, Marky Smith, and Bobby Womack into the same room in any other context. It transcends genre, while still retaining that familiar Gorillaz style and not seeming out of context. But the main reason it's on this list is a far more strange and personal one. It got me into playing synth and keyboards, even though I own far more synthy and keyboardy albums. Therefore, this album receives the James Failing to Be Objective Award. Number 3. The Seldom Seen Kid by Elbow. I know what you're thinking. James, stop sucking up to the Mercury Prize. They're not going to give you one just for agreeing with them. To those people, I have a simple message. They're right, and they have been for the last few years where I've been paying attention. Seldom Seen Kid is a beautiful album, filled with emotion and angst and powerful themes. Elbow more than deserved the success they received from the album, especially after having worked in the background for so many years. Seldom Seen Kid gets the Making 40-Year-Old Men Cry and Proclaim Undying Love award. Number 2. Cold War Kids with Robbers and Cowards. I know it sounds selfish, but I've always felt that Cold War Kids were my band. I followed them for many years, even before their stunning debut. I've preached their music to everyone I know, but at the end of the day, I'd still be happy if I was their only fan. The band are insanely tight and give the impression of a sort of reckless freestyle. The lyrics tell powerful stories about characters and their struggles within themselves. There's even a hidden bonus track at the end of the album, which is worth waiting through 10 minutes of silence to get to. And so Robbers and Cowards gets the award for being the unstoppable object of James's affections. And so here it is, the number one spot. Prepare for disappointment or confusion. Congratulations to The State of Things by Reverend and the Makers, which also receives the award for least imaginative artwork, but that's besides the point. I could not listen to this album for about 6 months and then come back to it, and my love for the band would be completely restored. I can't name a tune on this album that I don't like on some level. Sure, this list may be subject to change within the next few months, and I may have completely wasted your time today. But this album has been at the top of my list for about 2 years now, and I'm sure I will love it for many years to come. I'm not bothered if you disagree, it's all opinion at the end of the day. If any of you were interested in finding out what the rest of my top 30 consisted of, then just send me a quick message. Chances are your favourite one might be up there. Thanks for watching! Tune in next time for my top 10 breakfast cereals of all time. I'm not even kidding.